Crash Team Rumble might just be the most polarising game of the entire franchise. Now, we're all familiar with the various splits in the fan base for titles like Crash Bash, Twinsanity, the Titans games, and all that other stuff, but I think that given where this series is at now, during its revival period, there is a level of quality that we've been conditioned to expect. And you know what, regarding many aspects of this game, I can confirm that the quality is certainly there, while in other areas, well, it could be considered almost a little bit disrespectful to the core fan base, and possibly even somewhat alienating to the wider casual audience. It's because of that I've got so many mixed feelings on this game. That's why the video's running a little bit late, because I just had to wrap my head around the whole thing, but it's finally time, so let's get ready to rumble, because this one is gonna be a doozy. Alright, just so that we're all up to speed, because shockingly, the marketing for this game has been so far beyond botched that even the most terminally online fans of the Crash Bandicoot series may have potentially missed the fact that a new game was even coming out this year. CTR, or CT Rumble, has been a poorly kept secret now since the drop of Crash 4 in 2020. Rumoured as Wampa League, with the influencer marketing starting and then being abruptly stopped at various points throughout 2021 and 22. The extended hell of development time and a severe lack of information left many, including myself, expecting this game to be a huge flop. Even once the pre-launch marketing officially began, it was still difficult to really know what was originally intended for this game, given a lot of the subtle and not so subtle hints that were being found all around the place. But as it stands at launch, Rumble is the first purely multiplayer game the franchise has seen. 2 teams of 4 players battling it out arena style to fill up the Wampa meter as quickly as possible. And you know what? At its core, this game is so much fun. Running around, jumping and collecting stuff is a treat, but smashing your friends in the face is the real selling point here, especially with the various characters and their unique abilities. All of our heroes from It's About Time going against fan-favourite villains such as Embryo and the new Femme Tropy as actual playable characters. Holy shit, that is massive! Man, I remember seeing Crash Bash for the first time as a young kid and being so excited to play as Embryo when I got the game, only to be kind of let down as he's merely an avatar for the generic minigame format. And the racing games did do a lot of good for villain enjoyers as well, but nothing can really compare to actually running around with access to character-specific moves, defining their play styles, and Toys for Bob, the studio behind Rumble, have clearly put a ton of love into representing each character in a way that's genuinely heartwarming for the fans. Embryo throwing around his little goo dudes from the original game and transforming into a raging Hulk is such a childhood dream of mine come true. Newer characters such as Catbat also feel like nothing else in the franchise, setting themselves apart with a fresh identity. It takes a bit of practice, but being able to fly up and then swoop down to attack is a real blast. And everyone else plays as you would expect, with various maneuvers and abilities that make traversal and combat a breeze, with enough depth that some learning is actually required to play well through the different classes: Scorer, Blocker, and Booster, whose job it is to collect additional relics across the map for charging up offensive and defensive special powers. These range from various different mask abilities, blockades, and bombardments to get enemies out of your way. But each map also includes an epic relic station, which are always in hot contention, as they're often the determining factor for the winning team, turning into a giant spirit guardian and wreaking havoc, accessing additional Wampa stashes to quickly gain momentum, invincibility, environmental effects, you name it. So with both teams in close competition to reach that goal as quickly as possible, the addition of gem pads for a multiplier on top of all the Wampa your team banks adds another level of strategy into each match. A common team discussion during rounds is often debating what the best course of action is, spending time fighting over the large multipliers and relic stations for a bigger payoff, or simply utilising some of the quick and sneakier abilities to get ahead while your opponents are caught up with the larger tasks. It's really interesting. I know it doesn't look that deep just seeing gameplay, and honestly, it can sometimes devolve into a bit of spamming, but I don't necessarily think that holds it back. Skilled players are able to learn efficiency, while newbies are still able to jump in and have reasonable success with some solid teamwork. While it's a pretty standard design for multiplayer gameplay, the arena-focused collectathon action offers so much potential for intense wars between both teams, so many fun and interesting scenarios for how different characters will interact with each other, and just an overall stupidly fun time, especially when playing with your mates. And this is why Rumble is so goddamn bittersweet, because I love this game, my friends love this game, my partner and I have been playing this almost daily since it launched, and we're all really looking forward to see how this game grows into the future, especially now that we've seen a roadmap for upcoming content, including new characters, additional maps, some time-exclusive modes, and even just the weekly regular events that have already started to pop up. And yet, despite all of that admiration coming from lifelong, die-hard fans of the franchise, we've all been left completely flabbergasted by the shoddy, irreparable damage done by the weird marketing of this game, the strange fact that it's not free to play despite being only online multiplayer, and finally, how the fuck did this game launch with next to no content? It's just inexcusable. Now, it's at this point in the video that I'd like to thank Activision Blizzard for providing me with a free deluxe copy of the game to review for all of you, as well as some additional codes which I was able to give away recently on a live stream. That was very fun. But let's get fucking real, people. Okay, just because I've been fortunate enough to receive some free influencer perks over the years, that does not mean that I'm about to sit here, get on my knees and throat for $1 billion corporation just so that I can keep receiving those perks. Because the integrity of my voice on this platform is far more important to me, and at the end of the day, I absolutely love this little fella, and I only want to see his franchise be as successful as it possibly can be. So with all that said, man, I've got a lot to get off my chest. My first big issue with Rumble, the marketing. Now, this isn't something that affects the game on a quality level, because I personally enjoy this and would genuinely recommend it to other Crash fans to try, because, by God, if I can't convince you to play this game, then these idiots certainly won't be able to. Now, obviously, Activision Blizzard's reputation is a whole other can of worms too big for this video, but as far as Crash is concerned, I can only assume that a fine blend of COVID fallout and all of this bullshit the last couple years are a major contributing factor to why the launch of Rumble has seemed incredibly hindered right from the very start. I mean, the very first teaser dropped within Crash 4 It's About Time after you would complete the game. That was in Q4 of 2020, for God's sake. We had Crash on the Run in the meantime to keep us occupied, and man, that was definitely a thing that happened once upon a time, until it stopped being supported within only a few months, which is when the influencer goodies started appearing for Rumble. A pinata full of lollies, which I'm still blaming on my weight 2 years later, and there was also the Crash Tony Hawk cross-promotion Christmas cookie package in December of 2021. Man, they certainly scrapped that Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake faster than you can say fuck, didn't they? What a damn shame. Knowing that big projects like this could be constantly on the chopping block, then followed by 12 months of silence regarding the game, it's no wonder why there were genuine Crash fans out there who didn't even know this was releasing until the damn thing launched. I mean, all we had to go off was a few crackpot conspiracy theorists cultivating the rumour mill just to pay their bills, so how could you blame anyone for not knowing what was going on? The big piss off for me though once the game was officially revealed is that the marketing made this look so bad. Seeing characters wander around aimlessly through empty maps does not convey how this game plays, which, for a title they've been so anxious and cagey about putting into a specific genre, for a player base that most likely is not used to playing online games, I mean, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? People aren't going to know what it is, and the only way to get to try it before release was to pre-order the damn thing, and in combination with the company's public perception already being in the shitter, there is just a complete lack of consumer confidence going into Rumble. And I guess Activision understood this, hence the cross-promotion between Crash and the Golf. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of overlap there between these two audiences. Golf enjoyers love sitting in front of the TV mashing buttons to unlock shit like this. What on earth were they thinking? It's safe to say they chokeslammed the marketing, put it that way. So let's just talk about my second biggest issue with the game. The live service business model. I fucking hate that this game is not free to play. Now sure, it may not be full retail price like your AAA titles, but the squeeze on consumers by not only charging an entry fee on top of your online membership costs, but you're also expected to pay for future battle passes? That is bullshit. As sick to death as I am from seeing this format and grinding to unlock the stuff every month, at least the base game is usually free to play whenever I'm in the mood, and if I so choose to purchase additional purely cosmetic content, then I have that option. Instead, this feels so alienating, and despite the fact that there are certainly unlocks to be had by simply playing and leveling up each character, without a battle pass, then there would be nothing. Nothing substantial to reward the player for putting in the time, and honestly, that's kind of why I was expecting to see this game fail. Crash's nostalgia revival has been just that, nostalgia, banking on the memories and name value of the franchise to sell, and you know what? It's worked so far, good for them. But this isn't CTR the racing game with a previously established fan base and quality you can bank on. This is CTR the new, experimental and unexplored genre that up until this point, nobody has any confidence in. So that core player base you'd usually expect for Crash is already going to be limited from where it usually is. Follow that up with a poor marketing campaign which has definitely hurt the game's appearance, and now the fact that you can't even try it risk-free, instead you have to pay to find out if you even enjoy the game or not, that is such a bad move. Oh, and did I already mention that Crash's core fan base most likely not having a lot of interest in online multiplayer games? I just can't believe it. Never in my time have I seen a game with so much potential restrict its own success to such a degree. I just cannot wrap my head around the thought process, and it's so frustrating because the game is actually fun. But you wouldn't know that. Charging up front for this is a bullet in the head from my perspective. To pay the price of entry for a multiplayer game of this nature in 2023 is absurd, following all of the great success of titles such as Apex Legends and Fortnite. And it breaks my heart because as someone who has experienced this firsthand, I really want people to play it. I want this to thrive. It could be a really positive step for the series, but a launch with next to no content, significantly less in fact than the original CTR from '99, it's simply not good enough. I'm sorry, but even as a big fan of this game, I probably wouldn't recommend purchasing it until you feel confident that it's going to receive considerable support post-launch, which, by the time we know if that'll happen or not, who's to say if the player base will even still be alive by that point? It's really just so up in the air. And that brings me to my third and final big issue when it comes to Rumble: a severe lack of content. So let's say you, your 3 buddies, and a loyal yet niche group of hardcore Crash fanatics have the game. What now? Well, at the moment you've got the one standard mode, which is fine I guess, but it gets boring kinda quickly. For the price of entry, I would have expected a much more fleshed out experience, and sure, it is only early days yet. Games of this format tend to be built up over time, and that's fine. But please, give me something to do in the meantime. This just isn't enough, and they should know this by now. Now, we all know Toys for Bob are an incredibly talented studio who clearly put a ton of love into this project, so I'm placing the blame for this onto Activision Blizzard, the long-running standard of publishing successful online games. How did they fail Crash so badly? I mean, it's awkward just partying up and accepting game invites, for Christ's sake. It shouldn't be this difficult. I've mentioned previously, but we also need more permanent modes. Death matches, King of the Hill dominating a special item on the map, a free-for-all to see who can play the strongest as an individual. And hell, do you know what could be really interesting? Have you ever played Gun Game in an online shooter? With each kill, you're swapped to a new weapon of wildly varying stats of increasing difficulty, and the first player or team to make it all the way through the range of guns wins. They could totally implement this into Rumble. Once a player banks a certain amount of Wampa, let's say, I don't know, 400 or 500, they could get swapped to a different character, and maybe even a different power-up as well. Not only could this create a lot of fun, chaos, and contention, but it would force players to learn multiple disciplines to get better at the game, learning each character's strengths and weaknesses by trial to discover new tactics to complete tasks outside of the character's default class. Characters like Coco are already suited to fit any role on a team, and she's not the only one, so to see something like this explored further could be really beneficial. But more importantly than that, I feel like that, for the cost of entry especially, Crash Team Rumble is begging for a single player offline mode, and I think I have the perfect solution. It needs a battle arena akin to those from the Ratchet & Clank series. Yeah, Ratchet & Clank, he said the thing! You pick your character, go up against rounds of various foes aiming for kills or collecting Wampa. You could have all of the same relic station abilities and maps, and this could even introduce some basic boss fights into the mix. Yeah, remember Chainblade from Ratchet 2? He's my boy! Honestly, what is stopping them from introducing some familiar and new characters into the mix via this method with a simple offline mode? I mean, it could even be a great opportunity to add in some basic lore while they're at it, and the best part, I feel like this would be really easy to implement. They already have all of the different characters, and it's such a shame that such varied and fleshed out playstyles can't already be explored so much further. They have all the maps ready to go, all of the mechanics. I mean, this is pretty much a Crash 4 asset flip as it seems right now. How hard would it be to dump in a bunch of faceless enemies from the game, some additional unlockable rewards that you can then take online, and top it all off with a basic leaderboard among your friends for who has the fastest times, the most kills, and the highest scores. This, in my mind, just makes total sense, and I really do hope that we can see something of an offline single-player mode before the game eventually slows down, because as it stands right now, with mixed emotions at launch and already suffering from dire issues connecting to the servers, I really don't want to see Rumble turn into complete abandonware in the future, like the previous Crash spin-off we saw. For all of Crash's success and accolades throughout the years, I really feel like this franchise deserves a decent, long-running experience with continued support. But, look, if they couldn't last 12 months with supporting Nitro Fueled, then I'm afraid to say that I really can't see it happening here. Look, if I was to score this game purely on the quality of the different character abilities, the maps, and the fun and chaotic online gameplay, then I would want to give it a high score. But as it stands right now, I'm not going to do that, because as of release, Rumble has not done enough to earn such high accolades. Listen, Crash is a single-player mascot platformer, and while that's not to say he can't be successful in other genres, the foundation of players want that kind of gameplay. And I'll give Toys for Bob a lot of praise for this, because they have converted that genre into a highly addicting multiplayer game, but that alone isn't enough for me. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to do with this video is to paint everybody a very clear picture on what this game is in its current state, to help you decide if it's worth a purchase or not. On a personal note, I'm very glad that I've been fortunate enough to have been given this for free, because even though I am the core demographic who would have gone out and paid for this game regardless, I don't know that I would have been satisfied paying full price at launch. But on that note, the response from those who have tried it out, the feedback is always the same. Oh wow, this is actually really fun, which is so bittersweet. I'm glad that people are starting to understand why this could potentially be a big win for the series, much bigger than any Crash Bash remake pipe dreams ever could have been. But it also really hurts me knowing that despite how fun this game may be, it still has a long road ahead to repair its reputation. So do what you will with that opinion. For now, I'm going to be taking a break from playing Rumble, just until I see some more significant additions and improvements made to it. And who knows, maybe someday I'll be lucky enough to revisit this with some incredibly positive news, but until that day comes, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, remember to share with your friends on social media. I'm Square Eye Jack, and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.